Good morning and welcome to Elisa Maria Designs. I am Elisa Maria. It is Self-Care Sunday. Welcome back if you're back. Welcome if you are new. I'm going to be doing a reading today while we diamond paint. I'm back at the desk. I'm back to standing up, but I really thought that this reading, it's from March 15th from the Book of Awakening. I really thought that this reading was such an appropriate reading for this canvas. So let me show you who you know. Working on Klimt's masterpiece, Woman in Gold, and I just thought, after doing this reading, that this was the most appropriate canvas to be working on. I'm trying to get, oh wow, she's getting heavy. I should really have a, maybe I'm going to get a pool noodle and wrap her what is finished around the pool noodle, and then what I do is I clip it, and it works. It works at keeping everything in the right position for me. So let me do the reading so then you could get an idea of why I wanted to stay with this canvas. I'm looking at the books that I left here yesterday, and I was so thankful for the response I got with yesterday's reading. We were also working on The Woman in Gold, and it was a reading from this book by Ayn Rand. It was The Tragedy of Envy, and it has to do with Marilyn Monroe. So if you're interested, it's like a page read. Such a good, I think one of her best columns on the hatred of the good for being good. Alrighty, so today is The Power of Symbols. If you're following along, it makes my heart so happy that some of you went out and got this book. And you're loving it. You're loving it because it's such a short read. I'm going over this for those of you that are new and you don't really understand what Self-Care Sunday is about. This is what it's about. My book is actually breaking. Okay. It's been in my hands for like at least more than 10 years now. The Power of Symbols. If you truly hold a stone, you can feel the mountain it came from. A caveman picking berries was cornered by a wild and now extinct creature. And when he was spared by the sudden snap of a tree limb that scared the beast off, he took a piece of the fallen bough as a good luck charm. And so the story of symbols begins. And so for me, I had just got done diamond painting and then I sat down with my book to get ready for Self-Care Sunday, get ready for the following day. And I'm like, this canvas is a canvas full of symbols that represent not just Klimt, but also Adele's wealth, possible envy towards her, and we'll go through that as we diamond paint the canvas. But mainly I am working on the evil eyes that are encrusted in the gown that she is wearing. People have always saved scraps of their experience to help remind them of the forces of life that can't always be seen. Filled with the timeless rhythm of the ocean, we pocket a shell and carry it thousands of miles to know that presence of ocean when we are hours from the sea. It is why we treasure certain songs, why we save ticket stubs and dried flowers. Symbols are living mirrors of the deepest understanding that have no words. I know of two friends who made it through Vietnam. They were rehabilitated in Italy, and before coming home, they split a copper lire, each holding dear the other's half, as if it were the break of heart forever left in that God-forsaken jungle. And when I read this paragraph, it reminded me of being a kid and having the POW bracelets. Now, my husband is in the thick of everything, especially when he was a child, and he had no idea what I was talking about. I'm like, we all had POW bracelets. We wore them with the names of those that were lost or those that had died and were waiting for their bodies to be recovered, or those that were being held hostage. You wore your POW bracelet, and I wore that as a symbol of my feelings on the war of our American men that went out there and gave all for us. And I wore that for the longest time, and I remember taking it off, and I remember putting it in my jewel box, and I wish I had that today. I wish I had that bracelet. And I remember, you know, telling this story once before and telling you guys that there's actually a website if you still have your bracelet, and there's a list of those that served in Vietnam. We ask the smallest items of everyday life to carry unbearable meaning for us, and the dearest ones work like Aladdin's lamp. All we have to do is rub them slowly, and feelings and times long ago come through and live again. Our basic truths hard to keep in view return. And I took some symbols out myself that I hold dear. As a boy, I remember visiting my grandfather's house. He had a milk white bowl filled with M&Ms. It was a simple, magical treasure to me. No matter how often I reached on tiptoes, it never emptied. It had been 30 years since he died, and now, when depressed, I hold that milk white bowl in my lap and eat a few M&Ms. And I feel better. This is an illusion or escapism, but rather using the milk white bowl filled with M&Ms as a living symbol that can call into my moment of sadness and a deeper sense of plenitude and generosity that is always there, but not always accessible. This is the proper use of symbols, not to coldly represent ideas, but to call into being all that lives in us and about us. They help us bear witness to the painful mystery of living, and whether a crucifix, a small weeping Buddha, or a broken shell from a long-forgotten sea, they help us bear the days. And of course, Mark Nepo gives us something to think about. So I'll read those to you. Maybe you want to think about them while I begin diamond painting and telling you about things that I hold dear, symbols that I hold dear, and tell you a little bit more about this painting. Recall a special moment in growing up. And in growing up, a special moment, like for me was, I didn't read this last night. I kept this for this morning. So meditate on the feeling of that moment until the scene comes into view. Slowly feel your way about this special moment and focus on a detail, a certain chair, the smell of lilac, or a rainy piece of glass. With reverence, lift up this detail as a living symbol of all that is special, all this special moment means to you. The next time you feel less than, bring yourself in contact with this very personal symbol. Let it open you to gifts you don't always remember. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. Okay, let's get to it. So I pulled out so many memories that I hold dear, not just from my childhood, but my young life also. But I remember going into my grandmother's. My grandmother was a seamstress. She owned her own dry cleaning company. And she had a back room that had like, sometimes her customers would come to the house and pick things up. And you know, I loved going. I always knew where to find her. She was in the back room. And I remember the day that she was making this, I came into the room, like, what are you doing? And my grandmother loved Saint Rita. I believe that this is Saint Teresa. I'm getting thrown with the roses. I believe that this is Saint Teresa and not Saint Rita, but I know she loved them both. And what she was doing was she was taking a piece of lace and she was stitching it on there and adding the little bow, and she put a magnet, and she always had this. And I have had this now since she passed away in 92. And I, you know, anytime I miss my gram, you know, kind of like Mark Nepo holding that milk white bowl with the filling it with M&Ms. What a memory. I remember that. Okay, where am I going to go next here? So this painting, and why I thought this is a great painting to talk about symbology and symbols. So much about Adele is a symbol. She was a symbol of wealth, beauty, young, a socialite, but this necklace that she has on her neck. Let me see if I can pull this down some. Here we go. I'll roll it. is a symbol of the love that her husband had for her, because that was his wedding gift to her. This beautiful necklace that was also confiscated by the Nazis. This painting was confiscated by the Nazis when they invaded Austria. ADELE had already passed away. She passed away young. But her husband, who was a collector of porcelain pieces, primarily saucers and teacups, beautiful, one of a kind, he fled Austria before the invasion happened, and this was confiscated, as was other works of art and the necklace. Now, I remember going to a website, and it's probably in the masterclass that I did on this painting. The link is probably there, of items that were stolen and items that were recovered. So this was recovered. Most of Klimt's paintings are in the Belvedere Museum in Austria, where he is from. And while I love the idea of this being a part of that collection, this was most certainly a gift. I think it took Klimt close to 4 years to create this masterpiece. I did, direct you all to go to Google Arts and Culture, and you could do a virtual tour of the Belvedere Museum, and you can see his works of art. You can see his apartment where he died and other paintings that he was working on. I believe Lady with a Fan is in that, was in his home when he passed away. Beautiful painting, and if you want to see a really, really, really beautiful enhancement of that painting, I would direct you to Anthony at Single and Placing, and I would tell you to go look at the enhancement work that he did on that painting. It's absolutely stunning. Yeah, so I mean, the necklace was also confiscated, and that was never returned. But I do remember, and I believe it is on that website, that the necklace, you see one of the Nazi soldiers' girlfriend in it. I think that was the only picture I've ever seen of this necklace, other than it being in a painting. Now, I can't find this necklace again. It's so frustrating, because to see it, it is exactly, well, not exactly. Hers had sapphires and they had rubies, and I'm going to pull these out because I did in the diamond painting shop. I replaced those 2 sapphires with rubies, red gemstones. So I'll be doing that here. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, it was so satisfying to see you rip that necklace, rip those jewels off that necklace, and like make it more what it actually looked like." But I will say, the idea that Klimt had to put these evil eyes, which I'm working on right now, in this dress is like an amulet of protection. And I thought about this morning. Like, I don't hold a lot of faith or put a lot of energy into things like evil eyes and stuff, and different things, like this is personal to me. So this has a connection. This had my grandmother's hand on it, and it reminds me of just who she was, how gentle and kind and beautiful woman that she was. But I did put a lot of for someone that does not believe in these kind of things, I did put my evil eye on my shirt. And I was like, oh, I have all these like bracelets with evil eyes on them. I had a hair clip with an evil eye, jewelry with evil eyes on them. And I was like, I think that being an Italian American, my cousin would always say to me, "You need to wear red. It's protection from Malocchio, from the evil eye. And you need to wear the evil, and you need to wear the chili pepper too." And I think I even have a chili pepper with a evil eye on it. And I have an evil eye bracelet with a chili pepper. I mean, yeah, we're all about the red and the protection and the chili pepper and everything else. So it's superstitious. I don't put a lot of faith into it. But this morning, let's get back down to the canvas. This morning, I was thinking about this reading, and I was saying, Klimt put these evil eyes on ADELE, and I'm looking at my nail right now. I had an evil eye necklace on. I tried to put it on. My nail flew off. So that's why I have no nail on there. Just a little side note. So I was thinking about, Klimt. Did he put these on ADELE? to represent this beautiful encrusted gold gown, her jewelry, and I love what he did here with her hands. She was so self-conscious about her hand because she had a broken finger, and the way that it probably healed, it kind of healed with a disfigure to it. And I don't know, it may have, I don't think it was this pinky finger. I think she's actually hiding it. But also in the masterclass, I did go through Adele's jewelry that was auctioned, I believe, and the ring that she wore to hide that disfigurement on her hand. But I love the way he did her hand, the way he separated. I'm like, did he separate it? Was this? I can't remember. You know, it was my own masterclass, but you know, this brain only holds so much. I got to make room for new stuff. But if you're interested in that, her beautiful jewelry, the necklace, and of course her youth and beauty. But I'm like, did he put these symbols in here? Was this his take on wanting to protect someone who was so admired? He admired her. He used her in other, he used her as a model in more of his paintings. You just know it's Adele's face. I mean, if you look at Judith, it's Adele. Beautiful. But I'm like, did he do that? Or did she have, was she drawn to this? I don't know. As a Jewish woman, I don't know. I mean, I think that they're very close to their faith. And I couldn't imagine, but maybe so. I mean, at that time, you know, there were a lot of intellectual discussions on dreams and symbology. You know, Freud was a big discussion, and art. And maybe she did have, you know, a little bit of mysticism to her. And that's why he put them on. Like, I'm going to put these on for my girl Adele, so that when she looks at this, or anyone that looks at it, think of it that way, anyone that looks at it that wants to cast evil on her, there's this protection. And also this morning when I woke up, I'm like, I might not have faith in these, in an eye, you know, that's going to protect me. Like my cousin said, you got to wear red, you got to wear the evil eye, put the chili peppers on, you know. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. But this painting most certainly was protected. It was stolen for a while, but it was protected, and it not only was reclaimed, but it was given back to the family. And so while I would love to see this with his other collections, it was a gift, and part of me does think that it did belong with the family. But the family, which was actually her husband Ferdinand's niece, Marie Altman, was on the husband's side, wasn't Adele's niece. She has this paint. She gave this painting to the New Gallery in New York, and it drives me mad that I was in New York for so long, and I believe that the gallery is very close to where my restaurant was, and I did not go and see it. So if I ever venture back to New York, I mean, really, it's only a very short car ride away for me. John is all about doing the bus, but, you know, I did it once. I don't know that I want to do it again because there's no certainty as like to where you're being picked up at and where they're dropping you off at. It's a little cray-cray. So I just thought that this was the perfect painting. I don't know. Did Adele have an amulet that had an evil eye on it, or was this all Klimt? I mean, there's some things that we just don't know. I'm going to continue on this evil eye, and I want to ask you, you know, what are some of the things that, you know, are a reminder of, if you want to share, your childhood, or things that you hold dear, or, you know, seashells that you bring home. Like, I know when John and I were dating, I kept like every scrap of paper everywhere we went, every matchbook, you know, to remind me of that particular time. And, you know, we're so lucky that we live in a time where we can capture, you know, I remember as a kid, I was into photography even as a kid. And, I think I talked about, my Polaroid and like, how you really had to want to take that picture because, you only had so many snapshots in your Polaroid, and they had to be, of something of, well, at least for me, of interest or importance. Because other than that, you had to have your film developed, and we had a few places to go and get your film developed, and then you had to wait for it to come back. And then you rush through all those pictures until you found the one that you thought, this is the one that means something to me. This is a picture. I snapped a picture of the guy that I like, on the basketball team, so I could just stare at it, and dream about marrying him someday. I don't know what the heck I was doing as a kid. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, the things that there are still things that I have in my collection, my little treasure box. I have my little badge from when I was a safety, because that was really important to me, that I was in charge of little children and helping them cross the street. And then I worked in the lunchroom as, as a safety, with my safety belt on, my little badge. I had some kind of authority. At least they thought I only had the authority to cross them, but it worked, eat your lunch. It worked. I have, stuff from Girl Scouts. I, of course, have, letters from people like when I lived in Florida, and my friends that I was close to, like they all mean something to me. And yeah, so my grandmother's things. And then the most important thing that I have is my grandmother's ring that she had made. This was her diamond, and this was my grandfather's diamond. And my grandmother, after she had my mother was about 7, my aunt was just born, and my grandfather was a tailor, and the union had gone on strike, so he took a job as a cab driver, and he was held up, and he was killed, and he was 29 years old, and my grandmother was a widow, and she begged him that night. And you talk about symbols and maybe even premonition. I have 2 colors mixed together here. Got to figure out what this other color is so that I could diamond paint 2 at one time, maybe. But, oh gosh, they're kind of even Steven too. Let me see what your color is here. I think you might be what I was just, oh, I know what you are. You're the dash. Get to know your diamond paintings, because here it is. It's right here. It's the dash. Okay, so I can diamond paint 2 at one time. Equal, minus sign and equal sign. Okay, minus sign is the light yellow. And of course, there's none here. So, yeah, my grandfather was killed, and my grandmother begged him not to go out. She just knew. He had to call his sister. My Aunt Sally had to come to the house, and he was like, she gets like this every time, she was like this with Rosie. When Rosie was born, like I heard the story from my aunt, my grandmother's sister, my Aunt Mary, who I talk about a lot. I heard this story from my Aunt Sally, which was my grandfather's sister. I heard it from my cousins. I never heard it from my grandmother. My grandmother never talked about it, never. And how he got out of the house was she took his rings off. And she said to her sister and her sister-in-law, he's not coming back. And they were like, oh, Rosie, come on, he's coming back. And she's like, he's not coming back. I don't know why my grandmother was so fearful. I don't know what kind of premonition she had, but my grandfather didn't come back. And this ring was a ring that my mother always wanted, because of course it's a diamond from each of her parents. And my grandmother was great at they didn't have much, but my grandmother knew how to pull jewelry apart and make something new out of it. And that's what she did. She was like, I got some of her jewelry, but there's all missing stones in there because she took the stones out of one thing and put it in another to just, I guess, make her feel like she had something new. So before I continue on with my own thoughts, I had some thoughts to pose to you guys. And I do have them written down. Believe it or not, I do write some things down sometimes. I do. Let me get them for you. As I got my notes together to read to you what I had written down, I said, oh, no wonder I didn't do the exercises because I did so much writing last night. And then Johnny came home and he wants to practice. So I had to find a quiet spot where you could not hear him singing So, after I was done reading that passage last night, it reminded me of why I love art and, why I love this craft. I feel like every diamond that I place on this canvas, on any canvas, it's never really about finishing an image when I'm diamond painting, but I do reflect on the fact that it's a piece of time in my life. And if you've been with me long enough, diamond painting, you know that time is a very central part of my life. I have hourglasses all around. I guess they are symbols too of how I feel about time. And where I place my time is always very important to me. So, because this is my life and this is my minute and my time, and I don't know how many minutes I have left, and I want to do all the things that make me happy or have significance. I get very annoyed when I can't be doing the things that make me happy. So this time that I spend placing diamonds on an image is not just me trying to distract myself from I do a lot of thinking when I diamond paint, so it's not just a distraction or a meditation from me. It is a moment of my life that is captured in these paintings. The paintings that I've completed hold memories of what was going on, what was happening at the time, what I was feeling, what I was listening to. And for me, my diamond paintings are symbols of time spent in reflection, of conversations I've had with all of you during these sessions. Mark Nepo talks about how we carry small artifacts of our lives, things that to others might seem insignificant. And believe me, I have a lot of people that come into my home and look at my diamond painting and they're like, is this what you're doing with yourself? Is this what you're doing? Like they don't get it. And they don't have to get it because it's about me. It's not about them. And I choose not to explain because, again, art is subjective. And if you feel as though this is insignificant, well, I really don't care. But it's so interesting, though, because if they see things in my home, like a seashell or a dried flower, I have dried flowers in my Mark Nepo book. That's another symbol of, my son gave me roses for Valentine's Day. He gave me a single rose for Valentine's Day, and the petals were so big that I took one off and I wrote my dad's name on there because during a diamond painting, there was a reflection that I had of him, and I took that rose petal that had fallen off and I wrote that on there. And the rose petal was big, and I put it in the book and I put it in the reading that I was doing for you guys. So it's interesting that people will see things in my house like a seashell or a dried flower or like jewelry that I wear, and they know that holds a meaning, but they don't get the art. Not all of them anyway. I don't really think that anybody is, well, yeah, there is one person that has come into my house that has really been captivated by what I was doing and asked a lot of questions about it. But they're also a creator. So these things that do seem insignificant to us, to other people, they might seem insignificant to other people. To us, they hold meaning and they transport us back. Like, Nepo said, like Aladdin's lamp, and they bring forward emotions that we might otherwise lose to time. And we do live in a very exciting time where, you have Facebook that's documenting, oh, remember, today's March 15th. Remember when you were doing on this day? So I hope that we don't lose the emotions that do come forward and the memories that come forward with these little symbols that we have, like me with my grandmother's ring, or with her little Saint Teresa that, she handmade herself with the little ribbons, or, I've certainly photographed my home and elements in my home. But when I see them on Facebook, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. When I see them on Facebook, they don't hold the same emotion to me. Now it's about the portrait. It's about the picture that I took and the way that I arrange things in my home to make them aesthetically pleasing. But when I buy something like a timepiece, like I know why I'm buying an hourglass. I know that I'm documenting. I want to be aware, like someone that wears a tattoo on their skin to be, that has significance for them. That's a symbol of how they feel about something. But, like for me, when I see an hourglass, it's a constant reminder of me, like, how are you using your time? So those are some of the symbols in my life and some of the objects that I hold on to, not because of monetary value, but because they remind me of something or someone or some part of myself that still needs to be held. So I would encourage my audience that's listening to share in the comments. What are some of the objects that you hold on to? Again, not because of monetary value, but because they remind you of something or someone or some part of yourself that still needs to be held. Some of the things that I do have are extravagant, like my grandmother's ring. And while it makes me think of the love that they shared and, losing my grandmother, losing the love of her life, so young, and for me, it holds a lot of sorrow. I think growing up as a child and looking at my grandmother, there was always this sadness about her that when her sister-in-law, my Aunt Gracie, who I was telling you about, found recordings that her brother, my grandfather Frank, made, because my grandfather ran around with a camera. So that's where I get it from. I mean, he ran around with a little vintage camera, and that is in my art room, and I'm going to have to take a picture of that. And I want to take pictures of the things that I hold dear and put them into this video, and I will show you that. And there's a roll of film in there, and I don't know if it's ever been opened. The camera has ever been opened, but I won't open it myself until I'm in the proper place of someone that knows if this can be developed or if it's just an empty roll of film. But I mean, I have things that are extravagant, but this ring, being that it was the diamond that was in his ring and the diamond that was in her ring when they got married, and her creating this setting after he passed away, it does hold, I think, more sorrow than joy for me when I think about, my grandmother through the ages, and this kind of like lost being in a way, because when he did take a lot of video, my grandfather, and when I saw a video of my grandmother, I even have a vase that was in one of the pictures that was in one of the videos that he recorded. I have that vase. Again, it's in my art room. I have so many things of my grandmother's that remind me of her. And I was like, who is that woman? And my mother was like, well, that's your grandmother. I'm like, what? Pictures that I see of my grandmother before her husband passed and after are like two different women. But I think I was just, kind of reflecting on, the things that we hold on to, and then, them not being, I don't think I hold on to things because of I don't hold on to this ring because of the monetary value, but because it reminds me so much of my grandparents, and like seeing these two diamonds together is like, I can get into a whole story about, where my grandfather is, where his resting place is, where her resting place is. For a while there, I went on a tangent that I wanted to move my grandmother with her first husband. I just, was just so drawn to my grandmother, but also a lot of our lives, her life and my life, paralleled each other in so many ways. And we did have this special bond, and we did have this special relationship that I mean, yeah, of course it's never going to be broken. There's something very special about grandmoms, aren't there? About grandparents. But, I'm looking at my canvas, I'm looking at this while I'm diamond painting these evil eyes. And I know that even this canvas will become a symbol. When I look at this canvas months from now, I'll remember this conversation. I'll remember, talking about a sweet ADELE and this conversation with all of you. And pretty much the way I remember most things that hold, that are a symbol to me in my life. Just like the reading, like I will probably never forget Mark Nepo's grandfather's milk white bowl filled with M&Ms, or I'll never forget now the story that he shared of his grandfather, I believe, told him the story about his two friends that split the copper lire in half after surviving the war. I ran around as a young girl. We don't know each other. I ran around as a young girl waiting for my POW to be returned or something about him, until it was just like, did I outgrow the bracelet? No, it was in my jewelry box. I don't know what happened to it. It was such a big part of my youth. And I have things from my youth. I still have my safety badge. I still have my Bible when I received my first Holy Communion, and my little Holy Spirit medal. I'm wearing that around my neck. But, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, this isn't just a diamond painting to me. It is a memory in time for me, and talks that I had, and this will hang in my home, and I will always remember this moment with you, and moments that we've had, and master classes that I taught, and because this is a symbol that is going to give me access to the emotions and experiences that sometimes we just can't put into words. I want to thank you for joining me on these Self-Care Sunday journey that we're on. And I am finishing up my evil eye in this session. I'm going to keep diamond painting, or probably add a little bit more to the end of this. And just reminded that this process itself is a symbol. It's a ritual of patience, of creativity, of connection. And if you enjoyed today's Self-Care Sunday and diamond painting, let me know in the comments. Let me know, what are the symbols you hold on to? What do they bring back for you? And until next time, may your hands be steady, your heart full, and your symbols always within reach. I am going to get together the symbols that I have. I'm going to incorporate them into this video. I'm going to give you a final look at this diamond painting and the areas that I have completed. I'm loving seeing all my evil eyes that I have wrapped around my arms and my t-shirt. Oh, my cousin Geraldine would be so proud. She would be so proud that I have something red on. But I do, I'm looking at these eyes that I'm circling it on. I'm thinking, if anybody, I think maybe the evil eye is not only for our protection, if you believe in that, but I think anyone looking at it knows, oh, I can't do anything about this. It's protected. This is a protected piece of art. Or this is a woman that is protected. I did take a break, and I will tell you, I was watching, I'll tell you in the next clip. I'm coming to an end here. In closing, my friends, here are the evil eyes that we worked on. Quite a few. They keep coming up, like, for all these, that's going to be an eye there, and a few more all the way down. They're just so gorgeous, aren't they? So pretty. What I was saying before the video, and I had taped only so much of me diamond painting quietly because you can hear John singing in the background, was that I had taken a break, and I was looking at I was looking at Cher, actually. Cher has been releasing her Cher show on her YouTube channel. And this particular episode had Lily Tomlin and the Jackson 5 and David Groh, from those of you that remember the Mary Tyler Moore show, enough to remember Rhoda. And then Rhoda got married to Joe. Well, it was actually Joe. That's who the actor is. And I'm looking at Cher, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I just have Adele burned into my brain, but in this particular outfit, this Bob Mackie outfit that she had on, she looked a lot like Adele. And I'm starting to see symbols everywhere in my home. John is getting ready to make his Sunday gravy. And of course, he makes that in his mama's pot. And, you know, even the gravy itself is a symbol of all the love and togetherness and family time that we get to share. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Self Care Sunday. Please let me know your thoughts, any comments, anything you'd like to share. And I will see you, as always, in the next one. Keep creating that world that you want to live in. Bye, friends. I'll see you soon.